Thank you for joining us on the special breaking news broadcast as we get you every detail of the Air India crash report. It's a 15-page preliminary report, and we here at Republic TV have been breaking down the details since 1:30 a.m. Shavan?
Well, little after midnight, Niranjan, is when the AAIB has put out its 15-page report. What led to the tragic crash, leading to the death of over 260 people. Ladies and gentlemen, while one aspect is very clear that there was an engine failure, but what led to it, that clarity hasn't really come in from this report. Questions also emerge at this point in time as to with regards to the timing of the report being put out at around 1:30 this morning. No clarity really coming on that front. Let's go to quickly take you through each of the details that we have from the 15-page report here at Republic TV. We're going to decode the 15-page report. Point number one, the big breaking news now coming in from the report. The report says both the engines shut down mid-air within seconds after takeoff. Fuel cut-off switches moved from run to cut-off one after another in just 1 second. The report revealed that the fuel supply to the engines was cut off. Niranjan, question number one that we are asking. Is it now clear that this was a dual engine failure? Is that what the report really indicates?
Shavan, dual engine failure and that big mystery around the fuel engine cut-off. Right, the fuel switch cut off. Now, that is where many of our experts this morning also asking questions, because this is something that was flagged in the year 2018. And let's show this. Let's show this. Shavan, why don't you also come here, Shavan? And let's show our viewers what this report indicates, right? One of the key aspects, ladies and gentlemen, is 15-page preliminary report. And it's clear from even the exchange between the two pilots as detailed in the 15-page report. This is what was recovered from the debris, from the crash site. This is the thrust levers. You can see it's written here, thrust levers, fuel control. These two switches that you are seeing here, the fuel control switches, were in the cutoff position. You will see here, Shavan. Shavan, come up here. Shavan, come up here. This is the fuel control switch. And if you can zoom in a little bit, the fuel control switch, according to this report that we have in our hands, was in a cutoff position, which meant that the fuel didn't reach the engines. Yeah, Shavan?
The question that I have...
Let's go back to that picture, please. That picture is critical. Let's go back to that picture.
I'm not very sure about this, and perhaps our aviation experts can come in. And Niranjan, you've also gone through the report. Help me understand that. Can this happen manually? Can this be from run to cut-off? So cut-off means what? Just to help our viewers understand. So which means when you have the aircraft running, that there's a fuel that goes to the engine. When the fuel is actually going to the engine, it's on the run mode. If it is cut off, which means that the fuel is not going to the engine. Yes. As per this report, engine number one was not receiving the fuel. Yes. And that's when a question or an exchange that happens between the pilot. Is that true?
Very interesting exchange. According to this report, Pilot one asks the second pilot, did you cut off? He says, why did you cut off? Let's go back to that first picture. That's the whole story. Let's go back to the first picture. This is the full story today. He asks the first pilot, why did you cut off? And the second pilot says, I did not cut off anything. Now, this is the exchange as recovered from the black box. The black box has the conversation between the pilots, between the aircraft and the ATC. So all of that has been recorded. And in that conversation, one aspect becomes clear. The pilot, according to this report, is heard asking, why did you cut off? And the second pilot is heard saying, I did not cut off anything. Now, these are the exact words, word to word. And this is what was recovered from the debris. Now, the report indicates that the switch, you see those two switches here. These are the exact same switches, the fuel control switches here. They claim this was in a cutoff position. Now, our aviation experts joining us on the broadcast this morning, Shavan, saying that it is not possible to cut off the fuel. It has to be done manually. It can't be done automatically. Now, if it has to be done manually, and if neither of the pilots did it,
can I ask you one more question? It's like an electric circuit. So if there is a sudden high voltage coming, high voltage electric transmission taking place, you would have a circuit which breaks it, preventing from an problem with this, with any of the appliances. Now, put that very logic here. Is there any way that perhaps if there was some other thing that was malfunctioning, which is why it goes into a cutoff mode or a safety valve?
Yes.
Because there was a mention of a safety, the kind of a valve that was in. So is there a possibility that perhaps there was another mechanical error leading to this valve, to a point where the fuel does not go to the engine? So is there any mechanism in place?
I think we'll go across to our experts and ask that question, Shravan, because even they are saying that this AAIB report is not very clear. Now, one aspect pointed out in this report, and this is a breaking news update. Let's get you the breaking news updates first up. If you're watching this broadcast, we have the full 15-page report. 2 or 3 aspects become very clear. This morning, the AAIB in its preliminary 15-page report has said both engines failed. Point number 1. Point number 2, it mentions that the fuel control switch, it can either be in a run position when the plane is taking off and in operation, or it can be cut off, which means you're cutting off the fuel.
Right.
It's as simple as that, and it was in a cut-off position.
So they make a mention of this in the report, and they say this, that the moment this actually happened, and in fact, they have detailed out the very moment after the takeoff, and perhaps we're going to put out the video, which will actually help us to understand.
And we can speak over the video. Shravan will speak over the video of what happened just in those 32 seconds. 32 seconds. If we can play the video, full frame, Shravan.
It's extremely important. Can we just go? So this is the time when they are still inside the perimeter of the airport wall. But remember, the ascent does not really take place the way it should have, which means the levers were already operating. It was an idle mode. But that's the very point when the first message comes in of the engine not respond. Partial recovery takes place. Engine 2 does not really respond. And the crash, that's when it happens. So exactly 32 seconds is all that it is airborne. And 0.9 nautical miles is when the crash actually takes place. So all is not well, even the moment when the takeoff is taking place. So it's not like it was airborne and that's when things are actually rapidly declined, but it was the very moment that you see this takeoff actually taking, place. And this is what they say. The crew of the flight basically begin their conversation. The aircraft achieved maximum recorded airspeed of 180 nautical miles. Now, this is about 8:08 UTC, and immediately thereafter. So immediately after takeoff is when engine 1 and engine 2 fuel cutoff switches transition from run to cutoff position. So this is the point we are talking about. One after another within a time gap of just 1 second, engine N1 and N2 began to decrease from the takeoff values as the fuel supply to the engines was out. Now, this is the time when the RAT is actually deployed, which indicates that they are now basically going into some sort of an emergency backup, but that really also does not help for the kind of thrust that it needs to perhaps take on with their flight. The CCTV footage is where it shows that the RAT was getting deployed during the initial climb immediately after the lift. So immediately within a couple of seconds after the takeoff is when the engines are not operating, and that's when RAT is basically deployed. They're looking for an emergency backup. Then there is an attempt that is made for an engine recovery. Engine 1 recovers for a few seconds, engine 2 does not, and the crash takes place.
And this complete failure is what this report has indicated. But at the same time, this report very interestingly makes a mention in the final conclusion that at this stage of the investigation, there is no recommended action to B7878 or the GE NX-1B engine operators and manufacturers.